Good afternoon, this is Jeff of Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 13220 Thoma Road here in Lake Oswego. We're located down in the basement going through a 4-inch cast iron clean out. We're all the way out of the septic tank here. When I walked out to locate, somehow my monitor shut down, so we're kind of doing this one in reverse here. Now we're 45 feet exactly out from the clean out, and we are at the tank connection right here. We have a little water coming down the line. We'll let it dissipate for a second. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. We're again at the tank connection. We do have some debris, it looks like, sitting right inside that connection there, that kind of white looking item. I can't tell exactly what it is, but it's definitely not going anywhere. It could be simply toilet paper. It looks like it's something else other than that, but we get a kind of a not so good view of it. We're going to let the line drain out completely here for a moment before reeling back in. On the way out, there was the camera was underwater most of the time. We had a fair high volume of water going down the line here, so we're going to let it drain completely so we can take a look at this. Immediately off the bat here, just looking at it, this cast iron pipe is looking pretty worn. Now we're not going to be able to inspect the tank here today. I would highly recommend having that inspected and or pumped as well. It looks like it's based on what I see here on the camera, it looks like I don't know if it's an original concrete tank. There's a newer lid out front, out back. You definitely want to look into that. I apologize, we're going to I'm having a hard time keeping the camera lens clean here. So we have some significant amount of, you can see how tall that debris is there. What it looks like right off the bat is the bottom of the cast iron pipe is wearing out, and it may have already worn out in this particular spot here. You can see that we've got the water level goes up to the top of the camera lens. We've got 1 inch of standing water in that area. Anyway, this spot alone I would recommend getting repaired. We'll take a look at the whole line here. Some more very thick buildup there on the sidewalls. And the pipe gets to a certain point where, sorry, we've got to clean the lens off again. We're going to run some water here to help keep the lens clean. Now, I've turned some water back on here. There's enough sludge in the line here. I'm not sure we're going to be able to keep the camera lens totally clean. We're going to reel back to the beginning and I'll clean the lens off here and then we'll run it back out. But it does appear that the cast iron pipe is wearing in the flow line or starting to wear out there. And part of the issue, you can get scale buildup in these old cast iron lines that can be cleaned out. This line in particular, there's a couple spots where there's so much debris buildup. It could be scale, it could be debris, it could also be the flow line is starting to wear out. And when that happens, at some point the line will end up opening up to the ground. And we're back to the clean out here. So we're going to re-zero the camera out. And I'm going to keep this water running the whole time. There's just no other way to keep the lens clean, unfortunately. But they can become very difficult to drain clean when you get this kind of debris build up in them. And it's hard to tell if it's scale or if it's debris buildup or if the pipe's starting to wear out in the flow line. The concern is, though, if you were to jet this line right now and try and clean it out, there's a very good chance you'd end up knocking so much scale loose that you wouldn't be able to get it all cleaned out of the line. And then you have an even bigger problem on your hands. Now, if the line's not serviceable, it's an issue. At that point, if you ever get a clog, it can be very difficult to actually clear it out of the way or clear debris buildup. Anyway, what this should look like here is you should see a small amount of water flowing in the flow line way below the camera lens. We've got on this particular spot here, this does look like the cast iron pipe is wearing out. Just looking at the shape of the flow line down there, looks like it's wearing through. So for that reason, I'm going to recommend a replacement of the cast iron line on the exterior here. Now this is basically how it should look with running water. You should have that water line should be way down below the camera lens so you can see everything. Now we're back out here at the tank connection. I am going to map this out with white paint. We'll start at the tank and work our way back towards the foundation of the home. And I apologize for all the shaking back and forth here, constantly cleaning this lens off. It is marked out by the septic tank with a white X. The X marking is about 4 or 5 feet from the tank lid itself. We're at about 4 feet 4 inches deep here. Okay, I want to point this out one more time. If you look up to the right side of the screen there, you can see that there's a big ledge being created. Now that right there is indicative of the flow line actually wearing out to the point where it may actually be opened up to the ground here. It's very difficult to tell with the amount of sludge and junk in the line, but that is what that is looking like there. So for that reason, the cast iron pipe looks like it is past its design life. I would recommend an update to all the pipe from the foundation out to the septic tank connection. And I would have the tank inspected as well. If the tank is as old as the line is, it's possible it may be ready for an update. You can see all this junk here, all the scale and stuff. That's a combination of the pipe itself breaking free in little bits and pieces, and that's what I'm talking about when you really do not want to even try and drain clean this line. If you're hoping to keep it working, you'll knock so much scale loose that you'll clog up the entire sewer line. That's the other issue here. Even if the bottom of that is not completely worn out yet, it's very, very close. I put another marking here, white arrow showing the direction the pipe is running. We're about 6 feet 2 inches deep here, and that's because the yard builds up quite a bit as you get closer to the house. Now we're just a few feet beyond the concrete patio out back, closer to about 9 feet now. I'm going to do one last marking before the line kind of goes through the foundation wall. I do recommend contacting the city in this circumstance. Obviously, if you go forward with a repair, you probably have to pull some permits. But to find out if this is a grandfathered-in septic system or not, sometimes the city does require, depending on what you've got going on, if it's a grandfathered situation. A lot of these Lake Oswego homes do require you have to convert to city sewer. But obviously, you have to check to find out if that is the case here or not. I'm going to do one last marking here about 4 feet out. Alright, I'm getting it about 8 feet 9 inches deep here, and I've got just a few white dots leading up to the foundation of the house. I have that depth written on the ground, but off to the side in the dirt, just so I'm not painting the heck out of the concrete back there. That depth is on the ground though. Again, I recommend a full replacement of the cast iron pipe on the exterior of the house. I do not have a clean out in here to scope underneath the floor. But keep that in mind, if the cast iron out there is in rough shape, there's a decent chance that it is under the floor. Unfortunately, I can't scope backwards from this clean out, but keep that in mind. I'm not able to look at that at this time, though. And I highly recommend a rescope scope after any repair work is done to ensure it was done correctly. But again, I do not recommend trying to drain clean this line. There's so much junk in it at this point that there's not a drain cleaner on earth that would be able to guarantee you they're going to get all the scale out of there. So at this point, it's a line that's, you really can't even service it hardly at all without, I mean, an auger itself might bust stuff loose. A jetter certainly would. So for that and the fact it looks like the bottom of the pipe is wearing out, there's about a 10-foot section where it's quite obvious that that's what's going on. If you have that there, the rest of the pipe shortly thereafter is going to be to that point. So don't recommend spot repairing it. I recommend a full replacement.